Here we go, here we go. Let's give us some hands. Alright, I'm just going to jam pre. And here we just call. Hey, what's up everyone and welcome back. Today I decided to play live cash game. It's a very popular format here on YouTube, and I'm not a typical cash game player. My background is sit and goes and tournaments, but I do enjoy playing cash games quite a lot. I've been always putting in some work into cash games as well ever since I started, because I realized playing post flop is very essential, especially when I started playing sit and goes, where it's a lot about open raising and reshoving. There's not so much post flop going on. I realized by putting in more work for my post flop game, I will gain a significant edge. And ever since, I returned back to the cash game tables. And I of course understand that I still do a lot of mistakes, especially now if you transition from NT to a non-NT game. You might be a little more loosey-goosey in some of the spots, but what I learned in cash games, I can apply very well for tournaments. And I do realize that, especially with larger stack size, I feel much more comfortable and much more confident. And there's so much to learn and so much to discover. So I hope you do enjoy this format. If you have any questions, drop in the comments. And also now, with the coronavirus and a lot of people staying at home, you might consider, especially if you're new to the channel, you're new to the poker, please do yourself one favor. Don't just jump into real money games right away. Take your time, prepare yourself a little bit, study, watch some YouTube videos. With Raise Your Edge, you can sign up for free and get access to some ranges, to some articles. Don't just think with with the experience you have from live games that you just can run over your competitors. Online and live is indeed very different, and online players are on average a little stronger. So I want to make sure that you're not losing a lot of money. Keep your ego aside. Don't think you can just run over them. This is stupid. And yeah, of course, that's very important to me. That you're always very well prepared. And without further ado, let's jump into the action. All right, here we go. I think Jack 5 just wants to check it down. River is kind of nasty. I mean, has to be something like an off-suited queen, but I think something like queen 7, queen 6 off might not be limping always. So yeah, I'm just folding here. 9's pretty standard call. I think 4 betting doesn't really make a lot of sense. 4-5 off here. I think we just want to fold against the min raise. I would call, and against the kind of sucks blocking the 10-9. His sizing is quite strong, quite big. I think in theory it might be a call. I think we have to call with all the backdoor gutters. I mean, any 7, 6, 10 queen is not that, but I think our overall equity against this range isn't that bad. He will certainly have some checkbacks with some weaker Jack X, King Jack, Queen Jack. Yeah, ace-10 suited. It's interesting he sizes up a little bit, which makes sense to gain more immediate fold equity against ace queens. I'm just going for a delayed bet. I think if he has something like King Jack, King 9 suited, I think he might be peeling once. Ace 3, Ace 4 is going to call. Yeah, and very often I will do I want to re-raise? It's certainly an option to implement some 3-bets here on the flop. He raises. I think his range can be quite 3x heavy or something like 4-5 suited that checks back. I do have some floats like Jack 10 kind of stuff. I will go for buttons. I think is a recreational. Some of my tags for the Zoom 500 pool are for sure not accurate because I don't have that large of a sample size. So something I might have seen that is a little out of line, I might have tagged as recreationals and I mean, do I have Queen 8? We block 7-9. Yeah, I think it's not the worst hand to start barreling with. We can later on apply a lot of pressure against 10x from Hecklin. I go for an overbet. I think even something like Jack 6 suited, Jack 4 suited might really struggle. I think he's going to overcall it. If he doesn't have it in his range, it might get quite dicey. This is for sure where I would say that I will certainly have some leaks that I might misjudge the ranges of my opponent. I'm going for a thin value bet. I think if he has something like King Jack, King 10, even something like Ace 8, we might get some value here. Actually, I would have expected that his lower pair is going to protection bet on the turn. I think I can, against cutoff, this might be very, very close. I probably do want to check my range here. If it goes check, check, I can bluff on the river. And I think I will have more equity against his checkback range, but if called, I'm very likely to be dead. So that's why I feel very comfortable just check folding it on the turn. Definitely don't want to start betting this flop. Here we can go already for a larger sizing. Three betting is fine as well. I definitely have to pay a little more attention to who is playing multiple tables. It's always a good indicator who's a regular and who's a recreational. I do prefer calling, right, this hand over, let's say, Queen Jack suited, because it's less dominated by his like Ace Queens, Ace Jacks. 9-8 suited performs much better. And I definitely want to defend some hands. I think I would be folding a hand like Queen Jack or Jack 10 suited, because I don't think he's going to squeeze 7s, 8s or 9s, maybe 9s. This is quite dicey. This is of course one of the flops where we have the gutter, but he has all ace king combos, and having the bottom end is kind of, even though we have a backdoor flush draw. Also, the problem is that a lot of the cards that we could use as bluffing are going to improve his range as well. My name is Car, of course, an excellent cash game player, is also doing content on YouTube. I think I do want to do a lot of checking here on this board. He will have 10, 7s, 9s. He's still going to have jacks and queens. We might flat some of the middling pairs from the small blind. I think king 8 suited, going to 3-bet. Getting to fold a few of like the king 9, king 10 off combos. So you always want to 3-bet hands that make him fold better hands. And still have very good playability post flop, of course. So let's say king 10, king 10, king jack suited, big blind versus button are also already, because he's going to be calling so many weaker hands. I mean, I'm not going to 3-bet queen to suited just because it folds out queen 10 off, right? But 3-betting jack 10 suited has the merit of folding out like queen 10 off, maybe some queen jack offs, and still, for obvious reasons, has a very good playability post flop. This might be a very, very low frequency 3-bet. But I think king queen off is already a decent 3-bet hand against under the gun. So king jack off should be working quite alright here as well. Without a club, I'm just folding against the half pot size bet. Against 1/3, you could consider calling, but against half pot, I think. Really bad flop. I think we have a lot of options. Check call, bet big. Here I'm sizing up on the turn. I think Hecklin will have a lot of ace high, so if he has ace jack, I think against the large sizing, he will have a lot of problems. Going for a check raise on the turn. And also big blind will struggle quite a lot against the large sizing if he has a let's say king 3, right? It's and this is for sure not a GTO squeeze, and both appear to be quite solid to me. King jack, we just 3-bets. I just mentioned it's a low. Does it make sense to check? Is he going to bet a 9? Busted flush draws. Yeah, I think I'm going to check. Going for against I think a jack would very often bet the flop. Oh wow, okay. That's of course something I would not expect. Why is he checking 2-pair on the flop? He checks 2-pair on the flop. I mean, then my check is horrible. Then of course my check is horrible, but I think his range is very 9x heavy when he checks back, something like 7-9 on the flop, 10-9. Maybe he checks back a very low equity, 9, like just a 9 deuce and diamonds. Okay, he cannot have 9 deuce and diamonds, but let's say, yeah, 9-3 in hearts or something like that. And he's going to bet those. As I said, I think also 10x, if he bets 10x, I think it's going to fold. So his betting frequency should be quite high with the busted flush draws he has. Or if he has 7x in clubs, he's folding against my bet anyway. So according to my thought process, it makes more sense to go for against the min raise I'm calling. According to my thought process, then it makes more sense to just go for a check, because he's going to bet any 9x. He might be bluffing a lot of busted flush draws that are going to fold anyway. So yeah, but of course, if he just jack 10, he's probably also having like jack 5. I'm definitely not gonna start tagging him as a fish. Maybe he has a read on me, or he thinks I'm doing something stupid. But he has so many good hands to balance his range with. Like jack 3 in suited, he can check back. Do I want to check raise here? Yeah, I think I can do. I think some value hands might size up on this board from his with his rather strong range. I'm not sure if he has any queen 10 off combo from this position. We do block some queen 10 combos. I think he will have a lot of flush draws. King 10, ace jack, queens, ace 10, ace queen. So I will I mean, I do have all the queen 10s myself. I do have a lot of 2 pair sets. This is one of the weakest value hands I have. Nice sizing. Nice sizing. It's one of these spots. I mean, if he has queen 10 off with the queen in spades, right? He's check calling against my small sizing. If he has king 10 off with the king in spades, if he has king queen in diamonds, or king queen with 1 spade, like he has all these combos. And raising is an option as well, for sure. If his size is bigger, I'm definitely folding. Decent sizing. Definitely want to do a lot of checking on this. I would expect him to keep barreling 7s and jacks. He will have a lot of like ace king combos in his range. So there's no point in betting on the turn. And here we call again. He can bet for free showdown with something like ace 5 and hearts. I don't know him. Do expect a lot of checkbacks. Yep. That's what I expected. Bet check bet. He bets large on the flop, and now he bets on the turn. He bets on the river. Man, usually people. Tough to say. I probably have to bluff catch sometimes. It's very easy for him to overbluff, right? If he has like ace-8. That's a bit loose. Probably just want to be min betting this flop as well. Big blind, I think, is recreational. Good turn. I think this hand now wants to triple barrel. Okay, now it's really hard to have bluffs. He's smart. He can make a decent laydown. I mean, we value bet flushes and 10x, so a decent board for our range. Connects quite well with our broadways. Hecklin, just lay it down. Just lay it down. All right, seems he got it. Against the reg, he's from Denmark. He seems quite solid. I'm just folding deuces. I mean, all I can do is take a look at the lobby. Doesn't say anymore how many tables people are playing. What had my name is Carl actually earlier? I didn't check it. Jacks, yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think ace 10 just wants to call. If you have something like king jack, king 10, it makes more sense to raise to get him already fold some ace highs. Don't really see any better hands folding yet. And here we go, 3 streets for value. And here we have an easy call. If I have something like ace 9, ace 8 with one spade, I would be raising the river. Or with the king and spades. I think 8-4 might be a little bit too loose. If I have something like 7-8 in 7-8 in hearts, definitely a good hand to be raising with. It's a lot of small pots. Sometimes you have these sessions where you're not getting a lot of premiums, and you have to play with what you get. Checking is fine, of course. Our range is very wide, so we cannot just go ahead and bet everything. This might be an interesting hand here, but I don't know this guy. I'm definitely calling with 1 overcard. As we have seen, people are kinda and I see it over and over again, checking hands they're not supposed to be checking, clear value bets, because they want to protect their range, or I don't know. Yeah, here river, I think we should be checking. Let him bluff. If he has 7s or 6s, he's not going to call anyway. Interesting that he's not 3-betting it. Yeah, I think I want to bluff catch the river. I mean, there's so many 10-8s, 6-8s, 6-5s, Jack-8s. Insane amount of bluffs possible. We don't block any of those, so river I'm going to bluff catch. This is a bit loose. Let's look at the lineup. Yeah. I think it's a combo that he wants to keep barreling, especially if both flush draws break. He has a very good hand to keep barreling, not blocking clubs. Okay, he has the 8 in hearts. I didn't see it. Yeah, if he unblocks the 8 in hearts. I think it's a fine hand to check raise. We're gonna block a lot of nutted hands, like if the turn is an 8 or 9. I think he's not gonna opening Jack 8, Jack 9, but with a backdoor flush draw, I think. It's fine. Okay, this guy calls ace 4 off from the small blind. Definitely do want to check. This is a turn where either I want to bet very large or I want to check. And it's also good, like with ace jack, if he has, let's say, king 10, queen 10, jack 10, we at least have an immediate overcard. This turn sizing kind of sucks. But we block the ace in diamonds, which is essential here. And yeah, of course we're gonna call down. Jesus fucking Christ! Does he have a set? I mean, ace in hearts is not possible. I mean, yeah, I think if he has 8-9, he knows the only sizing to make me fold would be an overbet shove, right? So, but we have the ace in diamonds, which are a lot of the a6 he's going to float with. That definitely did not. Also interesting, he snap jams the river. But yeah. I think I will go for check raise on the turn, blocking ace queen, having still some equity, being able to block the hearts on a heart river. Not sure if even ace deuce is a call here. And I think now we can take our showdown value. 10-8 off. I'm recording. Oh. So now we just have to remain very focused and try to pick our spots. King Jack deuce. I just go for a large sizing right away. This might not be an open raise. I'm not 100% sure. In tournaments, it is an open raise. And especially if the hearts break, we have a very good hand to triple barrel. Definitely want to have some checkbacks on this board. He also plays MTTs. And now we can bet. I would also check back some overpairs. I would expect a lot of 7x in his range would be leading. Okay, this is the worst river. Now we have to give up. If the flush draw would break, I would, let's say a 7 and clubs or something like this would be pretty great. And yeah, I don't expect a lot of forward equity. This is just an insanely good card for his range. Go for a small block bet. I would just take a quick break because I have to go to toilet and then I'm gonna be back. Don't see a lot of hands to be bluffing on the river. That's why I just go for a straight value bet. Pretty good board for our range. I think we can also just go for a large sizing right away, make him forward force to 7, apply pressure on an 8x, something like 8-5. Cannot really continue against this sizing. If he has a weak gut shot like 7-9, with a heart, I'm going to continue barreling. We block some backdoor flush draws. Say if he has king 3 in hearts, makes it a somewhat decent second barrel. And sometimes you have to get lucky. Wait, was this the max? Ah, no, they're not the same. Yeah, I probably want to be very polarized. And I will overbet. Question is, I would also do it with my bluffs. Because he's going to have a king quite often. So I think the only sizing I want to be mainly using there is a large sizing. King Jack suited probably doesn't mind 4-betting here sometimes. Getting him to fold ace queen off, some ace queen offs, king queens, some suited aces. And if he 4-bet jams, I don't mind, because against his 4-bet jamming range, King Jack suited doesn't perform that well post-flop anyway. And against his calling range, we perform actually quite well because he's going to have 9s, he's going to have 10s. Maybe he peeled something with ace queen. I don't think ace jack is going to be in this ace jack off. We get him to fold ace jack off. All right, I'm just going to take a quick break and then I'll be back. All right, let's continue. You just have to take a break. I'm going to 3-bet this one and flop something decent. All right, at least we collect some big blinds. Here we go, here we go. Let's give us some hands. Or I'm just going to jam pre. And here we just call. No. Do we have 3 streets? My main hands 3-betting from the big blind would be like suited connectors, like 7-8 suited, this kind of stuff. Yeah, trips in a 3-bet pot is hard to. I mean, we do have some floats, like king queen, king 10 with backdoor flush draw. We definitely have to bluff some of them. We could also turn something like forces or deuces into a bluff. I don't think we have a value bet here. Our kicker is also quite bad. That's pretty interesting. Pocket nines. If I have more time, I would also write down a little bit the sizings. But I know what kind of sizings I'm going to be using here on average. So this guy is like usually on this board. I want to do a lot of small betting. But I feel like that I will gain a little higher EV by also. I feel like we're getting a lot of these boards. That this guy, if he let's say now has Jack 5 in spades, he's not going to fold. Also, don't really want to put in a lot of money on this turn, to be honest, if it's check to me, because this guy can still have a bunch of very strong hands, and if he bets the river, I'm probably just going to fold. Blocking the king in spades. Yeah. I mean, he knows that I will have an ace quite often, so just fuck it, I'm gonna fold it here. This is luckily where I feel very comfortable folding it, since he has to be, even though there are a lot of natural bluffs possible, but the frequencies he has to continue with bluffing are never going to be aligned with what he's supposed to do according to theory. King Jack off might be better as a call. I really do want to have a lot of suitedness in my 3-betting range for 100 big blinds. It looks like a clear check. I wouldn't mind betting. We get some value from weaker King X. We do have excellent equity against all his ace X that are going to be calling. So it's really whatever, you can flip a coin. I think some of the stronger King X certainly can also start betting here. Yeah, that's an important note. He definitely likes to burrow sometimes and then give up the rivers. Two overs, king queen suited against the polarizing big blind 3-betting range. We definitely have to call. We can 4-bet this sometimes, I think. Do I see where he's from? Poland. I'm gonna be 4-betting this. Yeah, and river. I mean, a queen we always have to call down here. Ace-7, ace-8 suited are decent hands to be 4-bet bluffing with. King 8 off. That's what I mean on the flop. It's just, yes, of course, we are behind as well sometimes, but against the weaker part of his range, we just have a lot of equity. Queen jack off should be a fold against the linear small blind 3-betting range. And against an overbet, we just call. If he second barrels, where we're going to improve to 8-9, some 8-9s. Here you have to be careful, not over c-betting this board with my very wide range. I actually feel like that his main bluffs are going to be something like King Jack, Queen Jack. But I also think we have enough showdown value. He might be betting something like Ace King, Ace Queen like this. And against that, we have a good shot to have enough showdown value. Ah. Definitely very good. High stakes cash game rec. It's an honor for me now, learning from the best. Ace-5 suited wouldn't be the worst hand. If he would 4-bet a little bigger, but I guess it's gonna be his standard sizing. Wouldn't be the worst. But the thing is, the EV of 4-bet shoving there is super marginal. And I'm not sure how he perceives me, if he thinks I'm over bluffing there. I think I just want to do a lot of checking on this board with this particular hand. Right, that's an interesting sizing. And I'm definitely calling once. I mean, this board just provides so many natural bluffs, and top set with his stack to pot ratio, where he can just easily rip a lot of draws on the flop. I'm just going to check. And you always want to give them the opportunity to do something stupid. And I think this note will give me already, definitely with my heart blocker, unblocking some. Actually, not having a 10 in hearts would be good, but I think his range is very Queen X heavy, 8X heavy, that are going to fold on the river. Oh. Ace Jack, easy call. King 2 suited, I would only open if the blinds are somewhat attractive to play against. This kind of sucks. Half pot gutter. Definitely want to bet the turn. I think he will have some Jack 10s, Jack 9 suited, pocket 9s, pocket 10s. Do we want to value bet here? I think, wouldn't the queen start betting? I think ace jack wants to value bet here. And if he jams, I don't think he's jamming a queen. But people, when they know it's I'm recording, they like to do fancy stuff, so we have to take that into consideration as well. And we got the hero call from pocket tens. I'm not sure if I would call tens there. He blocks a lot of my bluffs. But I haven't been putting as many hours in analyzing 100 big blind 3-bet pots pre-ante big blind versus button, so I definitely don't want to judge it. He leads the flop and he raises. I think I'm just going to fold. Would be sick play to raise there with jack 9 or 10-9. Tens. Yeah, I mean, you block 10-9. I would probably his suits are actually quite good, because I think if he has 10 in diamonds and 10 in clubs, it would be much better. It would be much better because I'm just going to, I have the jack. I don't, if I have 3 deuce or 10 deuce, it's much better to protection bet. If he has the 10 in diamonds, 10 in clubs, I think it's much better to bluff catch. Where do we want to go for it? I'm going to lead the river. I think he will have a lot of kings to, yeah, I think check calling and then leading a 3 or 5. We have some 4-3s. We have pocket 3s, pocket 5s more often than he has. And this is, we are either rivered a 2-pair set or trips, and it's really hard to bluff this line. Wow, and as it seems, he has the ace-3 or pocket 3s. So yeah, if he has 10 in diamonds, 10 in clubs, because a very weak 10-9, we would be checking back on the flop. So let's say 10-9 in clubs, right? Like without a backdoor flush draw, I'm more incentivized to check it back. Whereas now with 10 in spades, I'm more likely to start betting the flop because it can also turn a backdoor flush draw. These are just small details that I would take into consideration when choosing my bluff catchers on the river. I mean, I don't know my opponent plays like this, but I expect a lot of the better Rex would try to approach it from a very rational standpoint like that. I do expect he's probably going to do some protection betting with his. That's always the thing with I have to call. I mean, I would bet a lot of my 5x on the flop. A lot of 4x I would betting on the flop. I mean, I do have some in my checkbacks, but the majority of the time I'm going to start betting a lot of them. So king 3, blocking king queen. That might bet for protection against 10-9s, jack 10s, jack 8 type of hands there. Going for a limp re-raise. I've been raising quite a lot. I definitely also against a pool that is picked with excellent players. I want to and since his range contains also a lot of garbage hands, I don't necessarily have to make it that big. He insta 4-bets, man. Do we just want to jam it? Or are we going to call? I think I want to call sometimes here. A pretty standard check back, I would say, on the flop. And again, I think, okay, we might lose value against queens or jacks. Yeah. I think a king is not folding anyway, and this guy, as we see here, what we had earlier, I just want to jam for value. I mean, if he has kings, then so be it, but... Oh, that was a fortune. Seems like he has a bit of a sizing tell. I definitely don't want to take it as guaranteed tell. Something I will keep an eye on. This is very, very borderline. But as far as I remember, he's also more rather solid / tightish than loose. So. Korean monkey. Oh, snap check. The problem with his auto snap check is he's going to have a lot of 9 deuce off kind of stuff. So with this guy in the small one, I should definitely also increase my sizings. There are a lot of half sticks. The game seems to be quite good, to be honest. If it's check to me, I will start betting the turn against 9x. And let's say if he has queen jack, if he folds queen 10 and diamonds, and if this guy folds king 4 and hearts, I fold out 6 outs, which is quite substantial. I will put this in my check back, check turn, bet river range. And here I'm just going all in. Unblocking all the draws, unblocking king jack, king 10, and we make him fold those. No, just kidding. You know, once in a while you have to have a good troll in your repertoire. And since I'm German and we tend to not be that funny in general, I also try to be sometimes funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So bear with me if I make some stupid jokes. The big blind is I mean, sometimes you have players that regulars that don't have a full stack, so yeah, he immediately has the read on me that I'm going to be opening wider. He delayed over bets the turn, so we can just fold. So since this guy, I play this spot very exploitative. I have a good hand, I bet big. And if I have, let's say, a king jack, I would just bet 1/3 against someone that I don't know, someone that might be recreational due to the fact that he only has a half stack. I mean, I don't necessarily hope, but I think we should have turned the session around towards break even. I don't really care so much about the results. The way I am approaching it is I will go through the hands, I will get feedback on my hands, I will try to analyze the spots. And that's the feedback, whether I played good or not. I'm not so much attached to the outcome. I do it for tournaments. I do the same for cash game. Really bad card. And the same way you should be approaching it. Of course, once in a while, especially with your bankroll, checking in what is going on if you're on track. But in general, this is a good hand we can 3-bet with. I mean, with something like ace 8, ace 9, I would be shoving those hands. Blocking ace king. For whatever reason, he checked it. He checked it down. He could have also a weak king, king 9, king 8. So then I want to be, I think having an ace 8, ace 9 might be good hands there. Interesting sizing. We of course have an easy call on the turn as well. We call the river as well. Blocking king queens. I think ace kings are not going to size that large on the flop. They do. With the king and hearts. With the king and hearts. That has a bit more potential barrier. That makes sense. If you have very aggressive dynamic with someone that is also capable of 4-bit shoving, let's say ace 5 suited, or spazzing around, it wouldn't be horrible to to 4-bet and get it in, but you have to have certain dynamic. Yeah, it's probably the ace king, king in hearts, or ace in hearts. But apart from that, I do believe that because perceive we have 7s to 10s here, also against this larger sizing, I would be calling quite a bit. If he makes it a little smaller, I would call. Yeah, I don't. If against the recreational, of course, I'm calling. Against a good opponent, we want to be very careful here, because they're also 3-betting 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, so their range is not necessarily just premiums. And then you get into a lot of trouble. I think these pairs here, 7s to 5s, are very low frequent 3-bets. Calling only when there's a spot behind a recreational. But since there's nobody I would recognize, I could potentially gain an edge on, then I'm just going to fold it pre. Yeah, I'm gonna ISO 3-bet this guy. I think usually I would start 3-betting king 10 suited. Going to check back. I don't really necessarily want to get it on the flop. My draws are going to be dominated quite often. And also checking back here. We can still bluff the river against his king jack, king 10s. Yeah, just going for a small bet. I don't think king jack, king 10 are going to fold, but he has 7s to 10s. Some queen jacks, and we size it very small. This deck size, it turns into a protection game. Getting these boards here, like insane amount of time today. We have to do a lot of checking on these boards because our broadways, ace kings, ace queen, ace jacks don't interfere at all. And I'm going to start bluffing the turn, get him to fold some ace queens. And here, I also do think that people play these boards very poorly in position and the exploit, at least in tournaments. They're supposed to be stepping incredibly wide on these boards, which I think they don't, since their range is more suited heavy. So they're not going to have a lot of king jack offs, ace king offs, ace queen offs, because they're also going to be 3-betting those a decent amount of the time. He tanked for a little bit. Like usually I would check back, but I think that if he has a flush draw, he has an easier decision, and he's not going to have a lot of offsuited combos like king 4 with the king and clubs. So if he raises, I can easily let it go. And I think he has a lot of like 4-3 in hearts, or a weak 5 that, or maybe. But the amount of hands he can bluff with there are very, very limited. So I really do like my second barrel there with his timing tell on the flop. He might have some other tables going on, but I really like to pay attention to those small details. 4-5 suited, we can 3-bet and then just fold, and with backdoor flush draw we can start betting. We're quite deep, but I think we're getting caught by a lot worse hands. Checking, betting, both are fine. It's whatever. Same spot. You can I mean, if we 4-bet, we have to stack it off. People do have 7s, 8, 9s with a certain frequency in their range. And some interesting boards here. With backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, we're for sure going to be calling once. Hecklen. Man, I really would like to raise. The problem is that if he has the ace jack offs or ace 10 off with ace and spades, I think he's going to continue barreling the river quite a lot. So these are excellent barrel candidates, right? And he knows we have ace queens, we have king jack, king 10s, and if he blocks all the flushes, it's gonna be very, very nasty on a lot of rivers. What the fuck? Yeah, I'm definitely gonna jam the river, but it's queens, jacks. Yeah, he could have queens, jacks. Maybe he can for sure have tens or king 10 trying to lure me into a value jamming king, jack, king, queen. Snappity snap. All right. Interesting turn. He shouldn't have a lot of 6x. I think I'm going to continue betting small. If I face a race and someone has a flush and the river pairs, I'm just gonna, my implied odds are just insane. And yeah, they for sure have some flushes in their range, but if it's not a nut flush, and especially if you face them in race, thank you. That's the best that can happen. We're playing fixed limit, hold 'em, hit. Ah, that's unfortunate. Here's a 6-5. Oh, wait. He called 6-5 off. Do I want to jam? No, I think I just want to call. I think a lot of people just call ace king here in these positions. Going to check raise this one. Good board actually for all his ace queens he's 4-bet bluffing with. And of course we aren't going anywhere. Good turn, very good turn, very good turn. I hope for a spade. Yep, okay, I mean we have to bluff this river. I think we don't need to go that big. I mean, perceived we have queen 9s, pocket deuces, pocket 9s, jack 10. So, yeah. We block the king, jack, king 10 in spades. Pocket 9s are unlikely in this range now. I think if it's pure ace queen or king queen, he's going to fold. All right, we're running quite a lot into the top range with our bluffs, but it's all right, it happens. King queen would be a low frequency 3-bet in that particular position. On a low flush board or low monotone board, we can definitely incorporate larger sizings as well, because we have a lot of hands that, let's say pocket jacks or ace 10, king 10. And I think also a low flush wants to put it some money, unblocking all the higher spades that going to play call, call. I think the 10 is somewhat the borderline card. A jack high, queen high, king high monotone boards I'm using. A more smaller sizing on average, and then the lower the high card gets, the more often I'll be using a bigger sizing as well in my c-betting strategy. And that's a great river actually. Now I also have a very easy bet fold. Oh, sorry. If he jams, since he has to turn something like either an offsuited king in spades or an ace in spades, which is he either going to call or fold. If he jams, it's just a nasty setup and we have to fold. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, he was probably tanking whether to jam. I think it's a legitimate tank there. I think if I would have even bet small on the flop, he check raise, bets turn and jams river. I think the larger sizing also kind of saved me from losing my entire stack. I think people do c-bet this board way too wide with their range, especially these weird. I'm just going to do a small raise here against his jack tens and queen jacks, protect my hand, and then I give up and try to check it down. It's a very thin c-bet, but board gives me quite some options to barrel. This is a bit random, but I think he's going to be calling. I think he might be recreational and they might call something like fives. Can we value bet? Can we value bet? I think we can. What do we check call? I mean, 8-7 got there. I think we should check call. Busted flush, and there aren't so many busted flush draws as well. It would have been very nasty. Queen 9. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it up. If he check calls twice, he could have a weaker flush draw that we have a bit of short on value against, like queen jack, queen 10, jack 10 and hearts. Yeah, I think he's just on a weak king very often, so we don't need to bluff against that. And here we have a turn and a river bluff with this combo. He's going to be calling a lot of queen 10s, king 10s, 10-8s that we get him to fold on the river, on certain cards of course. And always good to bluff with those bottom draws, the way you have immediate fold equity against better draws. And queen 9 suited definitely wants to put in a c-bet and potentially double barrel this board. Three betting and calling are both fine. And once again against Mr. Hecklin, he checks back this board. It's very interesting. I just go for large turn bet, a large flop bet, and then shove turns. We block the king queens, so he's more likely going to have an ace. I mean, we also block an ace, so that's a bit stupid. He also has the auto check activate it. He's a recreational, so he, as far as I know, oh, just hit my. I'm just going to bet, get him to fold some king 5 and hearts type of hands. He's flatting there, and just, oh, he snap checks. He snap checks an 8. See, folding an 8, but we have to bet big. He can still force 5, 7, 6s. He's not having. Yeah, I'm going to try it. I think a jack wouldn't snap check. Oh. He got me. He got me. He got me. All right. If we face a 4-bet, we're going to call. Of course, flatting is fine as well. Definitely flop where I would start betting. Kind of sucks facing the pot size bet. We have to call though. And on this turn, he might even check back some hands that are going to be relatively strong. I definitely want to value bet the river. I want to be careful judging a play too quick, but I try to understand what he's trying to accomplish there. With especially when he blocks a lot of my immediate folding range that contains an 8 or a 5. I think it going to 4-bet small here. It's probably 9s. It's either 8s plus or 9s plus that we want to be 4-betting there. Can we bet range? We probably can. But since his range is so strong, if I have like a really, like an ace king or ace queen, it probably also makes some sense to check it back. And if he has an overpair, I only lose a little bit of value against 9s or 10s. But I think the added benefit of, you know, being perceived a lot on ace king, ace queen is pretty sweet. All right. Yep. And that's exactly what we try to accomplish. I'm going to squeeze my 8s. I think it just benefits so much from, like, this guy overcalls a huge amount of hands. So I just want to play against him or get him out with his like 10-7 suited. He calls. That's very interesting. The pocket eights. Yeah, it's the thing. I mean, he should probably bluff with, let's say, ace 10. He does have some ace queens and ace jacks in this position, so I don't always want to bet big. Remember, low frequency king jack off 3-bet from this position. Yeah, he should probably bluff with his ace queen offs, one club. This is a board that I'm going to check or bet large. Going to check a lot of my 3x, 5x. Going to I would be bluffing my queen jack, queen tens, maybe weak ace 10.